Hey everybody, welcome back to the second video in our series highlighting the trading techniques from our new book called The Perfect Storm. Just to remind you that this book will be available at cosmoeconomics.com. It's available through ICE, the Institute of Cosmological Economics. In part 2 of this video, we are going to talk about our swing trade timing techniques. These are good for short-term swing reversals on the daily bars of the US stock indices. And our primary intent is to use this on the S&P E-mini ES contract. We have 5 primary astrological / astronomical techniques to identify reversal points on daily bar charts. And we're going to start off with the 5 things are planetary ingress, declination, latitude, planetary speed changes, and the tides. The tides have a great effect on the stock market, and there is a verifiable isolation in these tidal moves. Some of you may be familiar with some of these techniques or possibly used them in the past, but I will say that every technique that we bring forward is not being used in the typical way that you might think or have seen in the past. Every one of these techniques, we have added our own little twist to or filtered them to make them better. But looking here at this planetary ingress chart, and this takes us, our first mark here is Saturn ingressing Capricorn in January. And you can see we caught this swing high, and then the next one on the list is Pluto. Pluto ingresses Capricorn, and that was 2 days after the high came in, and that Pluto ingress just accelerated that downward move. Then we go to Venus ingress on 228 was the first swing low as the crash started. Then we have Venus ingresses at the high end 327, and Mars at the low, and Jupiter at the high 323, 327, 330. You can see 327, you have 323 rather, you have Mars at the low. 327, you have Venus at the high. You have a weekend wrapped in between there. That's why the Jupiter ingress 330 line is right next to the Venus high, because it comes in on a Friday and a Monday, and it pushes the market back down for another 3 days. And then we cap this chart off with a Mars ingress at the May 4th low, and then we have a Sun ingress at the 514 low. So this is one example of a marked up ingress chart. These things give great turning points all year long. And remember, there's a twist on this. It's not what you are typically used to seeing when it comes to ingress. This next chart is from 2018. It's the full year 2018. This is the ES contract. And what we have here, the blue arrows are Mercury changing signs. The red arrow is Venus changing signs, and the bright green arrow is Mars changing signs. As you see, there are probably about 20 arrows on this chart, and just about every one of them caught a pivot point exactly or within 1 day of a high or low. A couple of times the swings were small, but you almost always will get at least a 3-day swing in the other direction. Moving to declination, this next chart shows Mercury's declination overlaid onto the ES price chart. And what you see is the 3 segments on this chart. Mercury returned to the same price where it was at the prior event. So what we're doing, we're tracking here the 0 declination point where Mercury transits and moves above 0 declination or moves below 0 south in declination. So you can see here the first line here at the left side of the chart. Mercury has crossed the 0 declination point, and that's the point where the vertical line and the horizontal line is placed. Mercury crossing back 0 south, it brings the price back to the same point where it was on the day that Mercury crossed to the north side. So that's something that as a trader, you always want to have that in the back of your mind. Moving on now to latitude, this chart plots the geocentric latitude of Mercury in the year 2017. So what we're looking at here is when Mercury is at minimum latitude, when it crosses 0 north, when it's at maximum latitude, and when it crosses 0 south. So we always want to chart the 2 0 crossings and chart the minimum and maximum point of Mercury in its latitude, and this will generate turning points on the chart. All these points are marked with these blue arrows and text notes denoting what particular phase in the latitude Mercury was in. Okay, in the next chart, we're going to take a look at Mercury planetary speed changes. There's a lot more to planetary speed than just retrograde and direct, where the planet appears to be stopping and changing direction. There are also other movements in the planetary orbit, and one that really seems to be effective are the days when Mercury moves above its average speed or days when Mercury moves below its average speed. So once you figure out what the average speed of Mercury is, you can plot these points that you see on this chart. So again, you see the blue arrows with the notes either below or above average speed. And as you can see, this particular chart is from 2015. And I'm pulling these charts from different years just to show that these things work over and over as time goes on. But you can see that just about every one of these Mercury points was located at a significant reversal point. On this next chart, more planetary speed changes are plotted with the vertical lines, though each particular planet isn't identified. This is the same chart section that was shown before at the beginning with the ingress chart. And you'll see that a lot of those points where we had a planetary speed change were on the same days as some of the ingress points. So what we want to do here is I want to show one particular point, and that is that asteroids can also be useful. And in this particular case, we're taking a look at Sedna. Sedna is also known as Thor's hammer, and it can have really destructive implications on whatever it is that it may affect. In this case, it came in 2 days before the high in February, right where my cursor's at. Sedna changed speed 2 days before the high, and what happened right after that was, the major crash move that we had. So something to look at. You always want to keep Sedna in mind and know when Sedna is going to change speed. And the last segment we're going to look at today is this particular chart illustrates the tidal pattern that we've discovered. There's an oscillation in the tides, and it creates a high-low swing pattern on the S&P. It doesn't catch every high and low in the market exact, but what it does, it tells us if the tide says today is a low point, the next tide change would be higher than the price today. So we go high, low, high, low, high, low, just based on that, looking at the tide directional change. What happens, there's generally only one failure in any given year, and the one failure you can see was right at the beginning of November, marked by the big blue arrow where my cursor's circling. And then once a year, there's an inversion, and that particular inversion took place in March of 20 this year. And when the tidal pattern inverts, it will invert for 10 points, meaning 10 high, low, high, low, high, low swing points, and then it will revert back to normal. And that happens once a year. So we get 50 to 55 tide changes every year. We get 50 to 55 tide swing points. We only have one failure, and then we have a 10 swing inversion. Once the inversion comes in, we know we're good for 10 swings. And this has worked perfectly like clockwork going back to the year 2012. So thank you for tuning in. I just wanted to give a quick look at our daily bar swing tools. Hopefully that gives you enough of an indication of what those can do. And we'll be back soon with our next video. See you then.